All right, welcome back.
Hey,
What are we
Look at
on?
us on
Episode
time.
35, right?
35.
I think
Episode
so.
35. Right on. So we're gonna, this used to be our tagline back then. I don't think we've said it in a long time, but it's just continue our dream of drinking online.
Yeah.
So really excited to have some of the guys from Stormcloud on tonight. So we're gonna get into. I ran up there actually yesterday with Amy. Took a little COVID road trip. Grabbed a bunch of beer that they graciously donated to the cause. So I appreciate that. But so we've got a pretty deep table of Stormcloud beer to get through tonight. And yeah,
How long a drive is that for you?
so it's about 3 hours
Each way?
each way. 3 hours up, lunch and beers. Swung by Five Shores and hung out with Ellie for a bit. That'll be a show that'll come later. Yeah, we're gonna get Ellie and the Five Shore crew on hopefully in April, I think.
Awesome.
But you guys have some Five Shore beers already, so yeah, and then 3 hours back. So it was a hell of a day.
Thanks.
Nice way to spend
Yeah.
Sunday. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful there.
let's
Let's
try
get our
to
friends
kill
on.
some time. Yeah, well, I was watching the camera, and so let's bring in Chris. We got Chris Schnepf, right? Did I say your name right?
Hey. Hello.
What's going on, Chris?
So Chris, and then we've also got Brian Confer. So
He's running late.
that's why I was stalling until you came back on camera. So Brian is the co-owner and head brewer at Stormcloud Brewing, and then we got Chris, which is his lead brewer, pouring a Rainmaker. I think we've all got it in the glass, right?
Oh yeah.
Almost.
So
Gotta do
my
the AMSR can.
There you go. Rainmaker Ale. So one of the things, yeah, cheers.
Cheersies.
So that's kind of Stormcloud's thing, right? You're a Belgian inspired brewery. So
Correct.
tell me a little bit about that. Why did you get into this and say I'm going to go Belgian beer?
Yeah, so I mean, Belgian inspired is probably the best way to put it. Although we do, the majority of what we do is Belgian yeast or traditional Belgians. This brewery was a long time in the making. I don't even remember when I started working on the plan, but it took about 10 years to get it off the ground. And we've been open for 6 or 7 years now. And in that, in the 10 years, where I started working on the plan and getting it open, the scene changed a lot in northern Michigan. It certainly changed a lot in the last 7 years in the entire state. But I've always had a love of Belgian beer. I've never been to Belgium. I just really dig the beer. Had some defining moments involving Belgian beer and food. But back when we were planning this, there weren't any northern Michigan breweries doing Belgian ales. There really was only Shorts and Ripe Brain. And Ripe Brain did a few of them, but they kind of circled the wagons and stopped doing them. Shorts, which who does kind of everything now and certainly has a lot of Belgians under their belt, weren't doing them at all at the time. And Jason, I know you've been to Frankfort. I'm not sure if the other guys have or not, but
No,
we're a little off the beaten path, and we're about 45 minutes west of Traverse City, an hour if you're behind an RV. And I just didn't seem to me like, with Right Brain and Shorts really setting the scene, not only in northern Michigan, but at the time kind of being big players in the state for reputation. I just felt like it'd be really good to not do another IPA, we thought that we were going to need people to come out from Traverse City on a daily basis for this thing to work. It hasn't entirely played out that way, but And I guess I just wanted to give them something to come out for other than what they could already get at a high level in Traverse City.
Right. I mean, I think
that was kind of the basis of it.
I think that's actually my introduction to Stormcloud was, I think, sitting at Right Brain, going, let's go check out that, brewery over there on the lakeshore.
Yeah.
And then getting to your place and going, why don't we come here? Like that was.
Did you get stuck behind an RV on the way out?
No. But it was really cool coming into town. Coming through the
gateway
thing that you guys, the gateway.
Yeah. By the way, one of our employees, Char, lives right at the top of the gateway, and she would really like me to put in a plug for all of the people who honk their horn when they go under the gateway.
That's awesome. I'm pretty sure I've done it too, man. So
Oh, I've done it too, and I live here. So.
I only do it when she's in her yard and I'm in the Stormcloud band.
Nice.
But
that's that might. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead. No. It's like almost completely unrelated. But Shane and I, my girlfriend, we were joking yesterday. We just opened we didn't open, but a Panda Express just opened down the road from our house, and it's backing up traffic into the street. And so we get to hear people honking for a different reason, more
right,
stuff because they can't get Chinese mall food. But I sort of feel her pain, I guess.
Yeah, I don't.
We don't care what Char thinks. Just honk your horn.
All right. Noted.
So Brian and Jordan and anybody watching, you got to Google it. Google the Frankfort Gateway or something like that. I'm sure it'll come right up, or just Frankfort, Michigan. You drive through like two lighthouses with a bridge going through them or something, and it's really cool. It's
it's at the top of the hill. It's a cool view from up there, and it's it's a pretty cool experience coming over the hill and under that gateway, and then seeing the lake out 10, 15 blocks away or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
How do people know that like honking their horn is like a thing? Like that wouldn't even like pop into my head. Like, is there a sign?
Well, I think it happens spontaneously, and then also it helps when we get the word out.
Yep.
But yeah, so everybody watching the show now knows to do it too, I guess.
Right on. So tell us about Rainmaker. I mean, it's
what are we
tasty.
drinking?
I'm just sitting here slamming it.
Well, Rainmaker, I got my start as a home brewer. It's possibly a little bit different story than some home brewer stories, but I can't really recall where the inspiration came from, but I know that there was a beer that I brewed that was a Belgian pale ale that I called Rainmaker. I think it was after the fact. That was the third home brew that I ever did, and something about it just clicked, and I knew I was going to be trying to brew Belgian traditionals, but this 5% Belgian pale ale, it's grown to 6% because I think it's a better beer at 6%. But I don't know, it hit the spot. It was sessionable, I guess, as far as Belgian beers go, and I just kept brewing it. It probably was in the basement brew cycle. Probably every third or fourth beer I brewed was another variation on this beer. So it's been in existence for a good long time, long before the brewery was open.
It's a great beer. It's just like a little like biscuity, little like kind of caramely. Like it's like delicious. I was talking. I can't remember who I was talking to the other day. I was talking. It might have been you, Jason, when you said you were going to Stormcloud and how you guys do a lot of Belgian stuff. And I was saying I can't remember the last time I brewed a Belgian beer or ordered a Belgian beer because I mean it's just not, people aren't making them, right? Like
yeah,
you were saying,
I mean, there's certainly breweries that make them as a one, they're in their rotation.
Sure. Okay.
it's getting harder to find the traditional Belgians in the state for sure. I know at Siciliano's at Grand Rapids, they've got a little of everything, and it's getting harder for them to get traditional Belgian style beers. In Traverse City here, Leffe Blonde, which is a pretty good blonde, it's been pulled from the market up here. The distributors just don't carry it, so it doesn't matter if the store wants it; they just can't get it even from the distributor.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't, in the craft beer scene, I think it's pretty rare to see a Belgian down here anyway. I'm not familiar. I know Bell's does one, I'm sure. I'm just
they do a few.
I don't think many. Yeah, I don't think it's a regular offering, and I don't think we have a lot of them on tap. But in my travels, I tend to see that all over the country. Like, but there's it seems like every place has someone with your mindset. Like in Indianapolis, you have like what is it?
Taxman.
Or Taxman, yeah.
Well, what was the one you just mentioned?
Bruges the Brasserie. I think I had.
Yeah, it's a little pub. It's
yeah, all they do is
yeah. I've been there.
All they do is Belgians.
Yeah.
I work out in California, and I know California. You've got Brewery Truro, and
right on. I think they've been around a long time.
They focus a lot on Belgians, and
yeah, they're all over the place. It seems like it's growing. In fact, I'm working with a brewery in Denver, Brews. I don't know those guys. I just reached out to them. But during CBC this year, we're going to do a little Belgian Inspired brewery meetup.
Cool.
Nice.
Try and get as many of us together in one room and meet each other. And
that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Is that?
I have a list of about 20, and I'm not sure that list goes much further past that.
Yeah. You mentioned like a couple minutes ago too, like when you were starting things up, like the scene changed. Like, is it like just like people's palates? Like they're more focused, like they want like New England's now and stuff like that, compared to like what they were when you're trying to open up, or what?
I just think the scene exploded. I mean, when I started,
like just the sheer number of options.
Yeah, the sheer number of breweries and that exploration of styles. I mean, I will say, I haven't been to every state, Jason. I don't know what your experience has been in California, but I do feel like, from my experience in my limited travels, Michigan's a little unique in that style exploration. My son is going to school in North Carolina, and they have an interesting scene down there. And there's a few breweries that do the sort of, Right Brain and Shorts and, Odd Side. And it just seems like that's sort of par for the course in Michigan. And it doesn't seem like it's always that way in every other state. I don't know what you've seen out in California, Jason.
It's pretty much the same. It's, what I see even down here and in Michigan, I think we've got the standard IPA kind of stout standard breweries, and then a few sour focused breweries. That's a new big thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Homes, Arclight,
right.
Jolly Pumpkin, some of the other ones down here. Same in California. Yep. And then I think it's just more trends. These smaller breweries, they just react to the trends. Everybody's coming out with seltzers and pastry stouts, and I didn't see a seltzer on your menu, so
no. And we're working on developing this crazy new style. I think we might release this new style called a hazy.
Belgian though? Belgian hazy?
There will be we use the term Belgian inspired, and that term is it's a loose interpretation. It can be a loose interpretation. There will be a twist on our hazy.
Nice. Well, I got to drink.
In fact, behind me, you can see we have a fooder back there, and we're doing some traditional continentals, and Schnepf just brewed a I mean, to speak to the idea of Belgian Inspired, right, and how we're using that as a guidepost. Schnepf has been brewing some traditional continental, lagers,
Mhm.
and he can speak much more intelligently about those than me. But the twist is that they're in that tank, they're in a
Yeah.
fooder.
So fully fooder fermented, fully fooder aged. I mean, just with a bit of oak along with a nice crisp lager.
How long do you keep them in there for?
Typically 2 to 3 months is
Wow.
what it takes for our preference of oak flavor right now.
So that's the Schwartz beer that we're gonna tuck into in a bit. Was in your fooder aged, one of your fooder aged lagers, right?
Yep.
Oh, excited.
Yeah, it's not a concept I've really had before, so I'm really stoked for that.
So we've done a Helles, and Schneff's about to brew a
German.
Pilsner.
Yep.
Cool.
Pretty excited.
So, yeah, so just the idea that, well, if we're going to do, a Pilsner, what are we going to do that just puts the slightest twist on it? And we're not talking about, we're not going to make a Pilsner with lactose. I mean, it's not a big twist. It's just a little twist. That's all it needs to be.
Right.
The Stormcloud stamp.
Yeah.
I think that's cool though. It's just a slight variation. Chris, I was there yesterday and drank your New Zealander beer. I screwed that name up. Norwegian beer. Norwegian yeast, New Zealand hops.
Yeah.
Super
Nice.
super awesome.
Thank you.
I know you said you weren't as happy with the freshness on it or whatever, but
I mean, it is what it is, but if everybody's enjoying it, which I still am, then what's there to complain about, really?
Right. Yep.
We have an active pilot program, and Schnepf brewed that on the pilot program. And normally those beers are kind of flying through because we only get one keg at a time on it. And COVID kind of screwed that all up. So some of these beers have sat around for a little while before they've had an opportunity to go on tap.
Yeah, we've had
We
some
enjoy it pretty fresh, though. I mean, we went through the other keg, at the
In-house, in brewery.
So it was enjoyable.
I mean, just the balance of the New Zealand hops, and they still popped. It was really enjoyable, and it was unique.
So a Kvike yeast and a hazy might be just the twist we need for this crazy new style called a hazy IPA that we've just heard about.
They're pretty new. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, I don't know. We might try this other new thing that we just heard about, this seltzer thing. I don't know.
I think that a Belgian seltzer would be awesome. That sounds
would be
super
interesting.
good, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have talked about that, but it's not moved past the conversation stage.
Yeah.
You can do like a
why
saison
not?
seltzer or something like.
That is a conversation, yes.
The lights are turning off around me.
Oh. Yeah, I think that was in our little pre-conversation. Brian had mentioned
There they
those
go.
lights are motion activated. So if he ends up going completely dark,
You just need some empty cans to throw behind you.
I'm about done with this Rainmaker.
Yeah, this was crushable. Like,
like
good.
I say this on some episodes, like I sort of like judge like how, for me, like how much I like a beer by like how empty my glass is when I'm not paying attention to it. It's just like I've been drinking it, without really paying attention. It's really great beer.
I thought you were gonna bring up carbonation levels, Brian.
I am a carbonation herb. That's a recurring theme too. And
You're like, what?
Beer does it for me.
Higher or lower?
Carbonation. Higher.
I do too.
Usually.
When I was in the planning stages on this and home brewing, my neighbor, who who actually lives in Detroit and is usually up on the weekends, almost every weekend, avid beer fan. He's a low carbonation fan, so we would always have a debate over the carbonation level.
I think it just makes them easier to drink. Oh, yeah. 90% of the time for me, a little bit higher carbonation.
You know, Brian, we actually do think of carbonation as part of the flavor profile on these beers too. So it's
Right.
it's something we actively think about and work at.
You on the can describe this as a medium bodied, I think. Yeah, medium bodied, and I think that carbonation really helps cut it quite a bit. Because like sometimes people, call beer like medium bodied, blah blah blah, and it's like you can't really taste it. Like this beer has some body to it. Really, it's there. Like, yeah, the carbonation for me on that beer, like really,
right on.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it during the little pre-show talk. Maybe we covered it again, but I want to comment on the black cans.
Yeah,
that's really cool. That's a good way to stand out, because you don't see that very often.
Yeah, they started life with a silver top, but a gentleman he's not with us anymore, but he's still with us in spirit, is Mike Sharp. He one day we were working the canning line. He's like, man, these would look cool with a black top. That was all it took.
Yeah,
you're right.
They do. They look sweet. He was not.
Have
wrong.
you guys, with COVID, have you run into any issues getting cans?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword for us. We're not producing enough that we have to worry. I mean, we're not shorts. We don't buy directly from Ball because we're not buying at the volume that they require. So we work through a third party, and the third party has a contract with Ball. So we get our cans on their press through their allotment. That doesn't mean we're not dealing with it, because we've ordered a couple of truckloads of cans far ahead of when we're going to need them, just to make sure we have them. And some of them have already been delivered, and they're in a warehouse. We don't have room to store them here. But yeah, it's a big deal. The next one part I'm worried about is these black tops. We're about halfway through our pallet, and I'm thinking I probably should order some more to make sure we have them. I wouldn't normally order for a good long time, but we're spending some money that we don't currently have entirely to get these things in stock so that we don't run out, for sure.
Oh, it's a scary place to be right now. We've heard we've heard that from a lot of breweries down here too.
Yeah,
just beer sitting around and supplies going short and stuff.
Right.
I mean,
how have you guys? How else has COVID changed? The footprint of what you guys did. Like, were you able to maintain a to-go business, or?
Yeah, I mean, when it first shut down, we did a couple of days of sales. I mean, as you know, Jason, we talked about it. We're kind of on the edge of nowhere. We don't have a huge audience in general here, especially in winter when that hit. So we did a few days of sales. Again, a double-edged sword. It's not like we're that busy that time of year anyway, but we do need every little bit of income we can get. But yeah, then, it opened up, and opened up a little bit, and our to-go business was robust. And now people are just itching to be out and do something. And we're actually having one of our busier winters. And people are up here too. I mean, I guess that's one of the huge differences.
Right.
There's people here, whereas normally you can shoot a cannon down Main Street in the middle of winter and not worry about hitting too many people.
But that was the thing. I think it's just stir crazy. My wife was, when I said to her the other day that I needed to go find some Rainmaker, because I knew that you distribute down here. And it didn't take her a second. She's like, well, why don't we go up there? Like, let's just take a road trip,
Right on.
Let's just go. And it was like, yeah, let's do it. And And yeah, the pub was packed. I mean, it was COVID.
Yeah, right.
I'm not gonna... So that was actually the first dine-in experience that we've had since the second shutdown. So
Wow, nice.
and
Thanks for coming up.
It was nice. Yeah. I need to open another beer. So since you were just talking about the fooders, and I've been dying to try this Schwartz beer.
Oh,
Let's get into this.
I'm gonna turn off my camera and go turn on my lights. Schnepf can talk
Go
all
for
day
it.
long about the food.
yeah.
Yeah, Chef, tell us about your Schwartz beer, man.
So it's pretty basic recipe. I mean, it's just, I can't remember the exact percentages, like 90, 95, 98% pills. And we're using local Pilsner malt up here. So that's another cool aspect that we're doing, which is actually grown, just like 20 minutes from our brewery. So that was cool to use. And then just a little bit of Carafa Special. I think it was type 2. So there is a little bit of a flavor that I'm getting from that malt, but I mean, if I could change it, I probably would, but I'm happy with it as it is. So,
The flavor,
and it's sat in oak or fermented in oak and lagered in oak. So it's cool in that fooder we actually have a plate in there with glycol jacket, so we can totally control temperature. So yeah, it was just lagered in there for 2.5 months, I think, and
nice.
Yeah.
So the flavor you say you're getting from the malt, you're talking about like a malt bitterness from the Carafa too?
It's more so to me like just like a malt to me it's a chocolate sweetness thing. And I've explained this to a few people and not a lot of people agree with me, but maybe it's just me picking on my own beer. I don't know.
I was drinking a Schwartz beer that I have on tap before the show started, so I'll have maybe I'll have a decent I don't know, comparison.
Yeah,
I think I used Carafa 2 in mine too, or maybe like pale chocolate. I can't remember, but yeah, Carafa 2 Special to me does have like a bit of a chocolate thing going on.
It is, yeah, and we've done a ton of malt trials, just building a lot of these brands that go into package, and then so just different trials on malts and hops, and we definitely took a deep dive into dark malts going through when we were building up Night Swimmer, our stout. So I remember that one specifically being chocolate for sure, and why I put it in a lager.
Right on the nose, like you get the like there's no mistake that this was. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I don't taste the chocolate sweetness. I don't.
Okay, cool. It's just me.
I think I get the oak. Definitely get the oak, and
yeah, we like oak here. We like to go heavy on oak with whatever we do in oak.
If anything, to me, it has more of like a vanilla thing going on. And maybe that's the oak, but I don't really get any.
The oak.
Yeah,
it's that perception of that oak. At a certain level, it definitely gets that vanilla comes through, and then when you get past that, you start to get into some tannic, pure oak flavor, which can get a little weird. We did some. We did one of our blondes in the fooder, and it spent a good long time in there, and mostly because we just never had a chance to get it out of there. It was it was summer when it's just balls out, and just never had a chance to move into another tank. And the oak level got pretty intense in that, but to the point where to me, it started to turn into a flavor that was unlike oak, and I still don't really even know how to describe that.
Is it one that you still have like in bottles?
No,
Or
it's
case
long
or-
gone
okay.
at this point.
Okay.
We actually took did a fun experiment with it. We have several smaller fermenters that we use for various reasons. We have a 2-barrel fermenter that we use to grow up yeast, and we did pull out 2 barrels at a time out of the foeder when it was available, and then would dry hopped it with various hops. What were those, Schnepf?
We did Motueka, we did Sultana, Contessa, and Nelson Sauvin.
Right.
So those are all individual hopped kind of blondes, foeder blondes.
Sounds pretty awesome. I
They
mean,
were
Yeah.
pretty tasty.
It was a fun little experiment, and on those, that it was interesting to taste that hop and have that intense oak flavor kind of push through or meld with it. It was a strange beer, but in a good way.
Yeah.
All of
How
them.
many beers have you put through that footer now?
What have you done, Schnepf?
So the German Pils will be the 4th
Cool.
coming out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
how big is it? It's hard to tell.
20 barrels.
20 barrels? Nice.
Oh, that's decent. Yeah.
So we did. We have
yeah.
a fooder in the sour program, and then this fooder was ordered maybe a half a year after the first one, and it was intended to be a second fooder in the sour program that we were going to use for dark ales. And kind of the same story. It got delivered here at the beginning of summer. We have a loading dock here at the facility, so everything gets delivered here. And just at the time, like the thought of trying to get it down to the pub and through the doors at the pub, and I said, screw it, let's just put it on the floor here. And right away, right, we did the Hellas as a collaboration with the filling station, and it just kind of stuck and hasn't left. So
cool.
Yeah.
No, you don't know if it's the permanent plan yet, but for now, it's the.
I think for right now, it's fairly permanent. But yeah,
cool. I mean, I don't know anybody else that's doing anything like that, honestly. And I think I don't know. I think it's producing some very, at least judging by this beer, definitely unique beers. So, and delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, that was certainly the first dark beer to go through there, and so I was curious to see how that turned out in general.
I've never had or heard of a Schwartz beer on wood before, so
and that's one of the reasons we did the Schwartz beer. Like, I wouldn't put a stout in there. Like it needs a delicate beer. I mean, even though the Schwartz is dark, it's still a fairly delicate beer.
It is.
And we do that a lot in our barrel program here. We don't have a very robust barrel program, but I'm looking at, I don't know, there's 12 of them in here or something. We tend to do our bigger light-bodied beers. So like the Golden Strong and the Triple. We've got a citrus version of our Triple in gin barrels. So I'd like that oak to become a prominent flavor component in our barrel aged beers.
It's funny. I just a couple weeks ago got some mystery beers dropped off at my house. I came home and they were on my porch, and I'm like, reaching out to people like, did you leave me beer? Did you leave me beer? And finally I posted on Facebook, and a buddy of mine from Illinois messaged back that he dropped a gin barrel aged triple on my porch. And
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I haven't drank it yet. If he's listening, he watches sometime. I haven't tucked into it yet because I want to give it the attention it deserves. But yeah, I'd never heard of a gin barrel aged triple, and then you guys have one. So we've done gin barrel aged saisons, and but it's
sounds amazing.
Yeah, the triple's kind of where I'm at right now with it.
Right on. I'll have to go. Not tonight. This is I've got enough Stormcloud to get through. I don't need to bust into that. These shows usually, I mean, this isn't bad. To say, oh, we've only got a few five Stormcloud beers, but we do have a Crowler and a Bomber. So
I got to give a shout out to my buddy Brian, who's in the chat there. I don't know if he's still there.
That was the Zappa, right?
Yeah. He told me to tell a dick joke.
Good. This is by
Brian,
no
that makes
means a
perfect
family.
Yeah.
Tennis is Michigan Hop Alliance, so he's our Northern Michigan. Well, not he is a Northern Michigan hop grower in Omena, about 45 minutes north of here. We buy a lot of hops from Brian, both Michigan grown and also just all from all over the world through his hop brokerage.
So I'll divert here to we have not yet interviewed a hop grower, so I'll have to get his info from you.
Yeah.
We have talked about reaching out to some maltsters, but we haven't reached out to any hop growers yet. So that would be
we got a maltster for you too.
right on. Well, and that's where I was leading with this. Aside from the shameless plug to try to get more business for our show, I love looking at your menu. You know, you have icons next to damn near every beer saying that whether it's got local malt, hops, or both. So it seems like that's a big thing for you. Do you guys have? Well, obviously you have Brian Tennis is hooking you up with the hops, but who do you use for your malt in Michigan?
Go ahead, Schnepf.
It's Allison at Empire Malting. She's a really good friend of ours, and so pretty much the base of all of our beers is made from her malt. So
cool.
A huge percentage of our beers.
Yeah, we do. We're all in with Allison. She's just 30 minutes up the road from us. She's a badass maltster, doing it all. And we probably need to do a better job of highlighting our relationship with her. She's so close to us and she's so passionate about what she's doing. She's a small producer, and that comes with some challenges here and there, but I just love what she does, and we love her, and we're gonna whatever challenges that arise from working with a small producer, because we're a small producer too. I can tell you our distributors would say the same thing about us. She's just too close to not build that relationship with, and just let her grow with us and us grow with her.
Yeah. In fact, we have Ted. He gives her a shout out too. He is the owner of Brewery. Say it, Brian.
Outre.
Outre?
I hope I got that right.
Ted, I always fuck it up.
I think it's Outre, not Outre.
Yeah. Any small brewery in Kalamazoo.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah, she is worth an interview. She's just so intensely passionate. I mean, she's malting. She built all of her own malting equipment.
Wow.
And
that's awesome.
I mean, hand built it, and now not only is she not content with making her own equipment and malting, she's also growing her own malt, or I don't know, the base grain.
Right. No, I think it was. So we had a conversation earlier this year. Kind of storyboarding out some shows that we wanted to do, and I think Empire was on there. It's just we hadn't reached out yet. And these things always work better with intros, so I'll ping
you. She has time, I can't imagine that. It's
Absolutely.
she has a lot of free time doing all that. Jeez.
She would, I'm sure she would promote. She's a great spokesperson for her own product.
That's awesome. So. You mentioned the sour program earlier, and we have one to try in a bit. But I saw that, it's been a couple of years since I've been to Stormcloud. When I was there yesterday, and I saw it called out specifically as the Lakeshore Sour program. So, when did you guys, kind of break off and start that?
So it's the Lake House Ales project.
Did I fuck that?
That's okay.
God damn
And it's a little bit of an in joke between Schnepf and I, because they're kind of they're farmhouse ales, but we don't live on a farm. We live next to the lake, so these are lake house ales.
Yeah.
Brian,
Cool.
in my defense, I was drinking yesterday when I was taking notes. So.
You know, the Lake House Ales project. So the brewery started at the pub in the back room there. We had an 8-barrel brew house and a handful of fermenters. We built the 20-barrel production facility about 10 blocks to the east a couple of years ago. You know, we were late to the game on sours for sure, but we had such a small space, and I was just we do have a commitment and passion, and everybody does, I know, for quality.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to produce sours in that facility at all. So when the brewery moved 10 blocks down the street, then we got the foeder and started producing wort. We transport the wort down there, and so now that is a sour production facility. There's 3 fermenters in there, a foeder, and a growing number of barrels.
Awesome.
And I'm going to stop talking, and Schnepf really needs to talk about this, because this has been, I really count on Schnepf to drive that program, and he's the master behind it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, so sometimes we'll take. I mean, majority of it has been just finished beer, so it'll be secondary ferments going on down there, and then obviously just building up this house culture in our foeder over there has been pretty cool, because we've used that quite a bit, just in some different beers that we've done or have yet to release. So yeah.
How often are you putting out like a new lake house beer? Would you say like every 3 months, or?
I think we're still trying to work on what that schedule looks like, or how it works with everything else. And obviously COVID is changing a lot of things. But I mean, so we just released our first, essentially 3 bottles last November. Was it around that time?
Sounds right.
I think it was right around that time.
Yeah, yes. It was around Thanksgiving.
People were willing to hang out outside while we had a little sour party at the tap room. Yeah, so that was one of the beers you guys have. There is Day One, which is a pretty cool concept that we just did again this year. And then we did a dark saison that was, mixed culture. And did we add cocoa? Yeah, we did cocoa and vanilla on that one.
Cocoa and vanilla.
Sounds good.
So it's a pretty funky dark saison with cocoa and vanilla. It's a funky beer, and it's cool. And then we released our first natural wine, or fermented wine, along with that. So the natural wine stuff is kind of falling into place with that as well, which is fun, because we get to use some of that stuff then right along with this beer. So Day One is actually one of those things that I'm talking about. It's a cool kind of wine beer hybrid in a sense.
Was it like rested on grape skins from your wine or something like that?
Yeah.
Or?
So, I mean, it's that's exactly what it is. So we made our natural wine. We took off as much of that must or finished wine, I guess, at that point, as we could. There was still a lot of juice and I guess at that point, pomace left. And we then filled up that tote with foeder beer and let it sit for a couple weeks.
In the dark.
Brian, if you need to go turn on your lights, yeah.
Yeah,
Got him on a timer.
Yeah, so that's been cool doing that stuff, and like I said, we just did that again this year. So last year
2019, the wine was, or the grape was Pinot Gris grape. So we have a skin fermented Pinot Gris. And then we use that pomace, which gives that beer, I think you'll see a nice, light, subtle pink hue. It's actually, I like it a lot. I like the color a lot.
Like rosé.
Yeah, but not to that level. It's just like it's there when you see it in the right light. It's nice. Cool. And then this year, are we allowed to say the wine grapes we had, Brian?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, we had Chardonnay.
Hopefully
grapes.
it turns out. So no, I mean, but
Chardonnay
the beer is already done. The wine is in barrels,
Yeah.
but the beer that went on the pomace is done.
Yeah. So yeah, we had Chardonnay grapes. We did Chardonnay, natural skin fermented Chardonnay, and then same thing. Took foeder beer and put it on to that pomace, and then so I forgot a whole aspect of day one is that first one I was talking about. We dry hopped it with a pretty unique hop that we got our hands on right around that time, the Zappa hop. Again,
From
through
tennis.
shout
I was
out.
gonna say, is that the
Shout out.
Zappa.
Okay,
So
that's,
this is not at all legible. Okay, screw that. So actually, the tag off of the Lake House Day One actually calls out honorary guest Brian T. And the Zappa hop. So there's some connection there.
Well, he introduced us to Zappa hop. He didn't have much of it, and so we took some and just went for it with that sour ale. And I see Gabe asked about day one and day 8, which is so. There was a concept on the naming that's changed a little bit, but you're going to see more day versions come out. The idea, it's all conceptual, but the idea of lake house ales, the idea of being at a cottage and sort of that guest directory whenever you go to a rental lake house and there's that little directory or a little guest book that you sign. That was kind of the idea, is like when we bottle one of these beers, we're going to sort of say this was day 8 at the lake house, and who was there, who was involved in the production of it. So you can see on the back of that the names of everyone at the brewery at the time who had their hands in that beer. At least one of those guys has moved on to another career, and I don't know. It's just a cool way to honor everyone that those beers are a long process, and several hands involved, whether it's Chris's that's doing a lot of the day-to-day work and getting the beer back and forth, or the guys that are bottling, or any part of it. We've pulled back from that naming scheme a little bit, and we're gonna try to do something a little more. We're starting to get more versions of these beers into barrels. So instead of bottling the whole thing, we'll transfer some of that batch into 2 barrels. And the idea is maybe we'll once a year, we'll produce just a blended, sort of a winemaker's approach to these beers, and just blend out a certain amount of barrels. It might be 10 bottles, it might be 100 bottles, it might be 200 bottles, and those will be the day, and we'll call out who was involved in that blending process and who was involved in the making of the beer. That's the shtick.
Did you open the sour, Brian?
I did. You got me all thirsty. So,
Well, I feel like we're skipping past the variants. I was going to say the sour to the end, but if he's jumping,
Go for it. Do what you need to do.
Let's get into it.
I don't think that it's going to be like a palate wrecker.
So we've got new versions of like that pomace beer coming out this year, and it's not going to use the day naming scheme, but we'll see some day beers return. And I think ideally, those, when you see the day, you'll know it's calling out a specific process, a blended beer instead of something that was
Totally planned in a way, maybe
exactly, yeah.
a little bit more of a way.
Or as much as you
I
can
like
plan
that.
it in that process.
right.
Yeah.
So, do you pasteurize your bottles?
No.
No. All right.
So I
there's
can use these dregs for
Dregs.
for my
We're home brewers, man. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we can-
And they're bottle conditioned too. They're all 100%
Okay.
bottle.
do you bottle condition them with like champagne yeast afterwards, or
Yeah. So there is a lot of, sack in there too.
okay,
Sure.
that's fine.
So I see on the tag you give some tasting notes or some flavor notes on a scale of 1 to 5.
The bottom one, I was noticing that too.
Yeah, the most prominent flavor on this should be purple spree,
Right on.
with a hint of tire fire.
Right
Yeah.
on.
I love that. No, man, it smells awesome.
Dude, it's that Zappa hop. I mean, both of those come specifically from that Zappa hop. I think and we've talked about it so many times here. It's
Wow.
it's like phenolic in a way, and it's just that it's like rubber, but in the best way possible.
Sure, yeah.
Like, man, and then I just kept drawing back to this purple candy flavor, and I couldn't. And then somebody said purple spree, and I was like, that's exactly it.
Totally. I can totally see that. It's like the flavor you get like 5 seconds after eating the spree. Like
Yeah.
it's all mush in your mouth. Yeah, absolutely.
Specifically the purple spree though, not the red spree.
Yeah.
Yep. It's got to be.
But
But Chris called it out first because he said purple candy, and then someone else identified the spree.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, that's it.
But I will have to admit, Chris, and you nailed. I mean, and tire fire in all the best way. There, you're right. There is some kind of arcade undertone to it, but it's not
it's
at
like
all off-putting.
All in the best way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's that hop. That hop's crazy.
Yeah.
In fact,
It's,
we're starting to use that hop as well. We're going to experiment with it, but I think it's going to become a more central player in our sour program. That phenolic, it's just crazy. That hop throws off a phenolic that blends in with what it is that we're doing and what we're about.
Yeah.
So I saw Shayna reach in and steal the bottle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
told her she should come get some. She's getting into sours like more slowly. And I think this is like mixed fermentations or whatever you want to call them, but it's really wonderful.
So the one fun thing about that beer and is that we're using a base. The primary yeast, it's fermented in primary here at the production facility with Kvike yeast.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're not using saison strains at all in that program. Not to say that we never will. In fact, we have at least once.
Mhm.
But that Kvike is throwing off some. It's just interesting because the beer going into the foeder before it's ever seen Brett or lacto has already got a fairly prominent tropical base flavor before the bugs even get to work on it.
Yeah, I definitely get that stone fruit or tropical fruit flavor, but then that combination of I think the Brett and the other bugs just gives it that great funkiness, that undertone. It's really good. I don't get much of the rose color, but I definitely taste the Pinot, the mix of.
I almost want to say like I can
Saison.
smell it more. Like when I popped the cap off the bottle, it was just like.
Schnepf, I think I was turning on the lights. Were you talking about the rose color in the beer or in the?
Yeah, it's the right light. But now that I see it in your light there,
it looks like it's.
Yeah, it's like
We're
yellow.
also behind like super bright, LED lighting. So
Right.
Well, so
Yeah,
like rose gold almost. Like like the hint of like rose gold. Yeah. Like
You just
it's
need
not.
a kiss of sunshine in there to.
Yeah.
If you were
No, I
also
can
to
totally
hold it
see
up
that.
side by side with the base beer that didn't go into the grape pomace, you might see a difference too.
Yeah, we're brewers and IT people. We don't go out in the sun, Chris. It's
Open your window for like a couple seconds.
it doesn't work for us, man. But no, this is really, really, really fun. It's a great beer.
Cool.
Ted from Outre.
Yeah.
We have used craft cultures in the past. We did some saisons with some of their. This was years ago, with their some of their wild cultures harvested locally. They were cool. We didn't really go past those cultures with them. We so in the brewery itself, we have one house strain that is used most of the time, and then we have two other strains we use. A separate strain we use for Birdwalker and one for Night Swimmer. We don't veer too far from that unless we're brewing one of Chris's Fruiter lagers, or we do play around with the Kvike strain, especially when we're producing the base beer for the Lake House project. But we've brought in we play around with Omega yeast, specifically their Kvike, and we have really enjoyed escarpments. On the sour side, we've used escarpment, Giga yeast, and
Omega for sure.
Omega, and also the East Coast. East Coast, is it?
East Coast yeast, yeah.
East Coast
Mhm.
yeast.
Escarpment was primarily Canadian for the longest time, wasn't it?
They still are. In fact,
Okay.
Okay.
we're a fan and like what they're doing. It can be a challenge getting their yeast across the border, especially when it's a very large pitch, which we just found out.
Does customs get shitty with that or something?
Something. got hung up in customs. It went from Canada to Memphis. I don't know. Maybe it was never in Memphis. I have no idea. Maybe
One
just
of
the
them was
customs
in
office
Memphis
is
for
in
a little
Memphis.
bit. The box that showed up today was in Memphis for sure. Because
We got a destroyed culture today that sat
No.
in customs, and they must have kicked it around a la Pet
Oh.
Detective style.
yeah,
But hey, a shout out to Escarpment because they're awesome. They're growing up a new yeast for us and
That's great.
sending it out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
awesome.
It's not their
I've heard
fault
nothing
that it
but
got
good
hung up,
things.
but
yeah.
Maybe you should just drive over and
yeah, right. Just toss it across the border. Potato gun it over the river, Windsor.
Yeah.
Windsor.
I think that I don't know who it is. I heard that there is like one supplier somewhere around here that's reselling Escarpment's yeasts now, but I can't for the life of me remember who it was.
Huh.
But I'm sure it's just like some sister company or partner or something. I don't know if they'd be. It might just be like homebrew pitches and stuff.
Yeah, they're supplying a lot of homebrew pitches, and I just picked up a couple myself from them, so I'm
That's
excited.
cool.
yeah, no, this is my wife actually just came up and grabbed some for her and my stepson. So I think it's gonna be a little too sour for her.
Yeah, what's the acidity level for you guys? Like, what's the sour level for all of you?
Not super tart, really. Like definitely like probably.
No.
On a scale of 1 to 5, like the flavor
1 to 5.
profile chart there.
So
Probably
like
like
10
a
being
2.
crazy sour.
Do you
Yeah,
agree with
5.
what we put on the chart? Oh, you don't have it. Jason does. What we
So
call
you put
out?
a 4. You put a 4 for acid.
Oh, you put a 4 for acid. Yeah, I wouldn't even
That's
go that
probably my
high
palate.
for me.
No.
I'm sensitive to acidity. I like less acidic than more.
Okay.
I like phenolic, funky to the level where it melts your face off. But I like acidity to be very low.
Yeah, I think I feel like this is on the lower end. You've got it on the higher end as far as overall tartness goes, like pH. I don't get any, like jaw puckering. I definitely get the funkiness. I think the funkiness is higher and the acidity is lower on this one. I've had, a buddy of ours, Trevor Klimek, brews for One Well, and he has a sour farmhouse ale he calls Red Barn. And I remember the first time I tried Red Barn, it gave me a massive headache just because it constricted all of the muscles in my face.
Oh man.
So when I compare this to that, this is nothing.
That's right. Yeah, good.
Really pleasant. So
I sort of like on the crazy tart scale of things. I always think of like ArcLight's Soursmith series, and
Right
that's
on.
like that's just about as like tart as I care for.
I think since then we probably adjusted our scale. That might have been me driving the bus on that. We rate here. It's in the brewery on a scale of 1 to 5, and my 5 is Chris and John's. What is it? You're 2, maybe.
Yeah, 2.5, 2. Yeah.
I think it's where it needs to be. I think I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't think like it's very balanced.
I think I agree with Chris more. It's lower. It's in the 2, I think.
But that's not to say that I want something that's at a 5 either.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think this balances it. The fruit comes through. The tartness is nice. The funkiness is nice. Everything. It's the wine characteristics are really cool. Yes, it's a neat one. I don't have anything to like salvage or try to take dregs off of this, so I'm gonna lose it. But
I'll try to put something together for you.
Brian's got the yeast lab. He'll culture.
He
this
does
shit up.
too. Yeah.
Ish. Yeah.
Those dregs are probably a lot of the bottle conditioning yeast.
Yeah.
Champagne.
Yeah.
But I mean, I figure at this acidity for being in there for a year now, a lot of that's probably dead though too, right? That's kind of like the well, that's what they say. I don't know. That's kind of like the milk the funk thing. Like a lot of that sack's probably not super healthy anymore.
That's a valid point. Yeah. I don't know what you would be. So you have a legitimate lab to be growing live cells on them, obviously. I didn't expect that.
For home brewers, it might be interesting to hear. Schnepf, you can talk about this. We use the Rare Barrel. I don't know if Rare Barrel still does it, but we read about it on their blog. That our first attempts at bottle conditioning failed miserably.
Mm.
Sour beer,
like acid shock starters or something.
Yeah. So sour shock starters. Yeah.
And that seems to have made a world of difference.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing's carved really well. So yeah, if this was bottle conditioned, I mean, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
Delicious.
Bill, someone on the chat was asking about our black, the Fun Governor, which we don't brew very often anymore, although it happens to be on tap right now. In red wine barrels, that was a long time ago. Yeah, red wine barrels are a great aging barrel for sure. That was a good beer.
Good memory.
I'm glad it reminded me of that. Might have to redo that one.
Yeah, I never had that one.
That was a long time ago.
That sounds delicious. I've never had anything like that before either.
Way to go, Bill. Bring it up. I did see Fun Governor on. I've had Fun Governor before, but I did not have the wine barrel version of it. That sounds awesome.
It was probably, I'm sure we did it for one of the Brewers Guild festivals. That may be where he had it, but I'm sure some of it was left over and went on tap at the pub too.
Bill's one of our keepers. He's in the homebrew club down here. He won the Bells Homebrew Fest or homebrew competition 19, the last year that it was on. Good homebrewer.
Right on.
Right on. I'm gonna go for another pour of this. So
Confer, do you want one or no?
I'll have some. Yeah.
I'll step out and get a bottle.
What's that?
I'll
yeah,
step
sure.
out and get a bottle.
I pulled one. It's right inside the cooler door.
All right.
The Grape Must one this year is on Chardonnay, and the Chardonnay is coming through strong on that one. It's an interesting beer. It you know, there's acidity in it, but that full buttery Chardonnay thing really just fills out the mouthfeel of that beer. It's kind of a mind fuck in a way.
No, that's cool. I was going to ask that when you said Chardonnay, if it had that buttery, Chardonnay characteristic. That
yeah, I mean butter. I
sounds
think
interesting.
that buttery thing comes a lot from the barrel aging on it, but I could be wrong. I'm no expert on wine. My wife knows a lot more about it than I do, but there's something about just the full-bodiedness of that grape. And we probably maybe had more of it. So when we make the wine, we run out the juice or the wine at that point, and we don't press it. So I don't know how much juice is left in there. But
Do you,
whatever it is, it all
local
went
winery?
to the beer. What's that?
Do you collab with a local winery, like to get your must or?
So Left Foot Charlie in Traverse City usually provides me with the grapes that we use, and he does the hard work of destemming it. Although next year I'd like to get something like the Pinot again and leave the stems in.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd really like to expand that program. It really was born out of needing to make wine to satisfy the MLCC. We found ourselves a little underwater with them over our wine program. Oddly enough, we were the last one to find ourselves there before they changed their rules on it. So now, what they had an issue with is now legal. But they really encourage you forcefully to make your own wine. So we did. And
can't you get around that with cider?
Well, we don't make cider.
You don't make cider.
But I just didn't want to. We bought some like wine kits, and I was like, well, this just seems silly, and to make like 5 gallons of something just to say you did. And about that time, Mitch at Speciation had started up his natural wine project, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. And so we went after it and produced something that probably would make a natural wine aficionado not very happy, but I dig it. It's I like it a lot. I've read there's a lady who writes about natural wine, Alice Fearing, out of New York. She writes for the New York Times, or used to. She's a huge natural wine critic and aficionado, and I'm fairly positive she would not be a fan of what we produce because it's too acidic and has way too much oak in it. But in the sour beer program, I think it tastes great.
Yeah, I've never had a natural wine before yet. Still living even as close as we do to speciation, so I need to.
We had Chris picked up a few bottles of this year's product that has made, and I thought they were great. They were really good. I dig what he's doing. He's taken the time and effort to learn in a way that we can't really do it. It is and will remain for us a little bit of an afterthought. I'd love to build another building to the side here and pursue that, but it's not likely to happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah. So you guys have it.
Chris is looking for the rose.
I was looking for that color.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe the Brett ate it.
It ain't all the color.
I will tell you that I normally don't like opening bombers by myself, and I know my wife took some, but this one I think I think I could open it and kill it.
This beer is changing. It's been a little while since I've had it.
Yeah, me too.
It's the tire fire is a little less prominent now than it was.
Still a lot of purple spree.
Yeah.
Jordan, have you opened it? Did you try it?
I have not. I was waiting for a time. I left that one upstairs for some reason, so I'm gonna go grab it real quick and
Grab it.
snag it.
Whatever. Brian's gone. I got it. Fuck you guys.
So now with our new bottles, we sit down as a group and build out this flavor profile. And while the purple spree and the tire fire are legitimate on this one, we've now gone to the fifth one is now philosophical or spiritual. So the first four flavors are practical, and the fifth one is spiritual. So there's a one coming up with a level of 3 for White Wedding.
I actually hold on. So I took a bunch of pictures yesterday, and I thought I had that one. Oh wait, hold on. No. So the day 8 you had Funk, Acid, Cocoa, and Roast.
That one
That
was the very first one we did. Yeah.
Okay.
There is no.
Even though it's day 8, we did that graph before we did day 1.
Okay.
And then
But
what was one of the overripe guitar solo? That's one of the ones coming up.
Mhm.
Those paint beautiful pictures. No.
Yeah.
A little tease there.
Oh man. No, this is super, super good. Really enjoying this. Glad that we came up to get this and that we weren't just sitting here drinking Rainmaker all day for the show.
Tennis is asking if we can get more tequila barrels. We've done our double IPA 31 Plains in tequila barrels in the past. I don't know if someone can tell me where to get good tequila barrels. I'd love to get more, but the tequila barrels we got were a disaster, and frankly, any tequila flavor that was in there may have came from spiking a little bit. That is
interesting.
Not necessarily legal, and I wouldn't do it
happens. Again. Right. No, I think that's interesting. I can ask around because I actually know several breweries around here that are doing tequila barrel aged beers.
Manuel has one that they do
quite
a bit.
Yeah, Only Goes to Show, and they're redoing Only Goes to Show right now.
A lot. That beer's
and
been out a lot.
I mean, you can find tequila barrels. Maybe we needed to just put a little better effort into. We haven't done a tequila barrel in a long time. Frankly, the barrels we get now, I only get 2 kinds: bourbon from, or gin. 3 kinds: bourbon or gin from Grand Traverse Distillery, or bourbon from Ironfish.
Sure.
They're so close. They're fresh. We get both of those practically the day they're emptied.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody around here is doing tequila, right?
Yeah. I think Two James is doing tequila. There's probably a demand for those barrels. I'd love to get my hands on some mezcal barrels. Speaking of that smoky phenolic. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've had rum barrels that were a disaster. They were so dried out that it just took so much work. I think we ended up setting them in a kiddie pool just to try to get them to swell back up.
Wow.
I went with a friend of mine. I'm friends with at Arclight, and they picked up a brewery in Lansing that had closed down. We went and picked up 200 barrels. And we wound up buying horse troughs, and just setting water pumps to just pump over these barrels just to try to rehydrate.
Right,
the rings were falling off,
right. Yeah. So I don't know. I like getting a good quality barrel from people that I know, and we're lucky enough in this little northern region to have a few producers that they're not literally right next door, but if you're coming from Wisconsin, they're right next door.
There it is. All right.
Yeah.
Shayna
got
just. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Jordan's
Well, I
got it
got
now.
Yeah, finally, I finally caught up. I gave a glass to my wife, and she really enjoyed it. So
Nice.
she's not terribly too much onto. She's just getting into sours, much like Shayna is, and yeah, she liked it. My first impressions is pretty damn good.
Yeah, she sent me a text. She said it tastes like buggy spree. Yeah. like once you have that flavor in your head, it's hard to get rid of. That's really funny. I wonder what that is. Like if there's a particular acid that's in sprees, like a little bit of citric acid or something. Maybe that has that particular flavor. I don't know.
That's a good
I
question.
wonder.
That is a good question.
I love it. I'm
Yeah,
excited
I
for
would
the
say it's
double
probably
stout.
it's hop and acid related there.
'Cause I've never used Zappa hops before, so like after we're done here, I'm gonna have to go look up the descriptions for that hop. And,
See if you can buy a pound.
They've been hard
yeah,
to get.
maybe.
I saw
Really good.
on, I don't know what social media, I saw Batch was doing something with Zappa hops. I don't know. Tennis is in the thing. Maybe he can tell us where he's sending them. Hopefully he's not sending all of them because I want some more.
You gonna try to do something with your that new style of IPA? What's it called? The
Hazy.
hazy
Yeah.
one. Hazy
heard of
one.
Hazy.
Yeah.
We've actually done a double IPA with it before, and it was a single hop, right? At that time, Brian?
Yeah, that was the first beer we did with it, was the single hop double IPA with Zappa.
Looks like you guys won't be short.
Yeah, there
No,
we
don't
are.
say that, Brian. Say you're out.
As an aside, I have to say to all the Brians here right now, I appreciate the way that you all spell your name. So I appreciate we all spell it the correct way.
That's right.
I was looking through. I take a picture. I take pictures of a lot of recipes and menus and shit. And I could have swore that one of the beers that we've had on this shows recently had Zappa in it, but I'm not finding it. So maybe I'm just making shit up. I thought one of the Final Gravity beers did, but it didn't. It had copper and.
I'd like to do. We've talked about doing a lager with this hop. And we're starting to play with some of the big flavor hops in small doses. So we've talked about doing this like a light lager with Zappa, but whereas we've used the Zappa with a heavy hand, this
Mhm.
would be a much lighter hand, more like a 20 to 30 IBU beer with it, and maybe even blended in with another hop.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm waiting. I'm hoping that this year or the next year is the return of the crisp, like lagers or something. Even if they do have a little bit of hop presence, I mean, I'm all about a little bit of bitterness or something. But I'm feeling dry beers more and more lately.
Well, we like dry beer here.
Yeah, we do.
I'll have to admit, that's the same thing. Like I'm actually, as a home brewer, thinking about my first lager. I've tried to do some pseudo lagers with Omega yeast, and but I'm the same thing. I was last fall. I was going on this craze of like Mexican lagers.
You were.
Specifically.
Yep.
And
That's
Yeah.
specifically the style we were talking about with using the
Was it?
Zappa hop with.
Nice.
well, I mean, I was just looking up. That's what I was looking at. So it's a Neo Mexicana aroma. It's from the mountains of New Mexico. Mint spice, tropical fruits, and fruity pebbles. That's in the description for it.
It's actually pretty accurate.
It sounds cool as hell. Yeah.
And it's a crazy. It's purple in the bag.
Really?
Right? Wasn't it like a purple color?
The bag?
The hops themselves weren't like no.
I don't know. They're purple.
Might have been that Kush or something.
You grabbed the wrong bag.
Man. Oh, so you guys have talked a lot about collaborations. Like, is that something you guys enjoy doing, or
We haven't done that many collaborations, actually.
Seems like
We
I've
collaborate with local vendors a lot, I guess.
heard local vendors.
We're at the end of the sidewalk. There's no one comes up here.
You know, you said that a couple of times now, man, but you know what? I tell you, the end of that sidewalk is fucking gorgeous. So if anybody that is stumbling down the end of that road, you're gonna find a pot of gold. It is.
I'm telling you, they were purple. I think you guys were all. I swear they weren't the normal greenish color. Maybe it was that comet Brian sold us that I'm thinking of.
Oh.
Purple Comet Hop.
Now I'm waiting for his next comment. Let's see.
Well, while we have your attention, Brian, I'd love to have you on to talk about hops, man, and we can figure out. We can get to the bottom of this purple. Figure it out, man.
Make sure you have that. What's it when you're on live radio and they bleep people out? When you have Brian on, make sure you have that button ready.
This is not a thing.
There's no bleeping here yet.
Yeah, no, let it fly.
I didn't actually do that to you guys before the show. I didn't ask you if it would offend you if I swore.
No.
Yeah, usually we do. That's on
I
us.
try, and I will do my best to not fucking swear if somebody asks me not to. But no, that's not who we are. No. So, what else? I'm about to kill this.
I know, me too. It's almost double time.
Double.
So you're gonna finish up the night with the 8.5%. What is the ABV on that beer?
Yeah, it's probably 7.5 to 8%, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So when we were coming up with this idea to do the show, I don't know who came up with the thought that it'd be great to get shit faced every Monday.
We take a couple. We take a Monday off here and there.
On a Monday night myself.
There's another brewery type review show in Michigan that airs on Fridays. I think we should stay away from.
Yeah. Yep. That was ultimately it.
Yeah.
What else do you have to do on Monday?
Yeah,
more of like the homebrew show. It's fine, sort of ish.
It's fine till Tuesday morning, huh?
Mm-hmm. So, you guys, when did you open the production facility?
2018, like January 1st, essentially.
Thank you.
Really?
Was when
we opened it in November, and then we immediately had to repair a bunch of shit for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then
what's your capacity there? What are you guys brewing on?
A 20-barrel Sprinkman system.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet system. I would highly recommend working with Sprinkman.
Are they local to Michigan or?
They're right across the water in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
cool.
Sweet.
Did you get your stuff
And
delivered on the ferry?
It's all American made. They just got bought by a German company, Krones. They're huge.
Krones, yeah.
Yeah. But I just talked to our sales rep today, and they're still an independent operator within the Krones family.
Krones stands out for some reason. Do they do like hop drying equipment or hop?
They do. I don't know. I think Founders has a Krones system. The big. I could be wrong.
We toured a hop farm, and I feel like they just got like some machinery that was Krones machinery. But then again,
the huge canning lines you see are Krones canning lines.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right on. What else? Before we get into these doubles, I've got a couple more swallows of the sour.
I just poured more of that bottle because I can't get over it.
It's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, the more I drink it, the more I'm really digging this. Like,
We have in that program, we've
Very,
got
very good.
this year's Thomas beer coming up. We did another Zappa dry hopped version. This year it's just the base foeder beer and then dry hopped. And then we have, what else we have, Schnepf? The Night Lotus.
Night Lotus.
What is
So day 8, which is our first release, part of our first release was a dark saison. That was made up of 2 wine barrels that we put cultures into, and so I essentially racked off and then immediately racked back in onto the same culture. Some of our actually Night Summer Stout. So the stout went into there, and I just let the culture do that for 7 to 8 months, and then we took it off and added some. First, we dry hopped it with Lotus, which is another cool hop we've been working with, probably because of Brian Tennis too. But another cool hop that, in my opinion, gives a lot of just genuine orange flavor. So we were trying to shoot for this orange sour stout kind of thing.
Nice.
And we dry hopped it, and then we ended up adding a little bit of orange zest to it. And so it's an orange sour stout. Yeah.
It sounds super cool.
No, it sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is really cool. I mean, the hop flavor, it's more than just orange, there's some, in a weird way, savoriness to it that makes it, I don't know, it just cuts through that acidity, I think a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
So
yeah.
we're all home brewers, and you guys have in the past done a homebrew competition.
Every year.
Every year.
Plans to doing that this year or
Oh yeah.
every year?
It's part of our Frankfort Beer Week. The whole world has heard about Frankfort Beer Week, I'm sure.
What when does that happen?
The second week of October, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do a bunch of events throughout the week in Frankfurt, and actually we do a badass beer dinner that week. We didn't. I mean, COVID screwed it all up this year, but we've historically done a really great beer dinner with speaking of that collaboration, in collaboration with a local restaurant here, and then the last day of the week is the homebrew competition.
Okay.
The last day of the and also it's the release of historically we've released our Oktoberfest that day, but we're switching that around a little bit. We're releasing our Oktoberfest a little more time appropriate these days, but we've been doing a bourbon barrel aged with Ironfish barrels version of our Oktoberfest that we release on that day. That beer is really good too.
Yeah.
A BBA Oktoberfest.
Yeah, it's super good.
It's really good.
I want to try it.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
So it sounds like we have plans in October now, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, do you have what are the rules around that? Are you looking for Belgian beers, or is it open to anything?
We've been a little loose on it. I think moving forward, it's probably going to start to hone in a little bit more on the idea of Belgian inspired for sure.
Cool.
Without getting into the sour stuff, because it's just the sour program is its own thing, and I'm not too keen on trying to reproduce someone else's sour beer because it's
Right.
It's like herding a cat essentially. It's going to kind of.
Is that the prize? The winner of the competition gets to brew their beer like with you guys?
Well, that's what we've done in the past. It's
okay.
It's a little more challenging now. I'm not sure what we're going to do moving forward, because in the past we had the 8-barrel system and that was fine. The the 20 barrel is a kind of a different story, not in terms of brewing on it, but just the amount of beer it produces at one time.
Yeah,
And it's also at the time of year when we're moving into winter, when just the traffic through the pub just so greatly reduces.
you don't want to sit on 20 gallons of somebody's Belgian Inspired New England
20
IPA
beer.
or something like
Right.
that, or 20 barrels. Yeah.
Which would be great, but that's the problem, is like we'd still be serving it in June because there just isn't enough traffic to move through it. That's why we stopped brewing. We get questions all the time about when are we going to make 31 Plains again, our double IPA. Well, we're not going to do it in the winter because we're doing 20 barrels of it, and that double IPA that really wants to be fresh is still going to be on tap 6 months later.
You got a 1 or 2 barrel pilot system, right? That's what you should brew the homebrew shit on.
Well, that's probably what we'll do. It just seems like a little bit of a letdown. I don't know. I don't know. You guys tell me if that works for you.
I mean, I think that honestly, that's the reward for most places. That
it's not. Oh, right. It's cool getting to brew on a big system. We've all gotten to brew on a big system here at Keepers. But the cooler part is having our beer on tap someplace. So it's even if it was 1 barrel.
I get that. Makes sense too. I tell you, the 8 barrel was cooler anyway because you had to physically mash in. It was a sweat fest.
Oh,
yeah,
and
you get the free labor, right?
Yeah,
right. Well, and you actually, as a home brewer, I mean, you get to do something. Here, it's you just get to watch Schnepf work. That's all.
I just all the time.
Yeah.
As a club, we get together and brew on a 15 barrel system once a year, and usually that's what it turns out to be. We nominate a couple of people to be the brewers to actually, do the manual labor and stand over the kettle or look down in it and take the readings and shit, while the rest of us are standing around the bar drinking.
Usually it just entails like opening up bags of like caramel malt and dumping them in, since all the base malts in like 2-ton like totes and stuff.
Yeah. That's a pretty sweet system though. Like,
so no, from a homebrewer perspective though, just being able to say that we've got a Stormcloud, or a beer on tap at Stormcloud, even if it was a half a bottle, dude. So
yeah, well, that's cool. That's good to know, actually, because I was a little worried that doing it on the pilot system is a little bit of a letdown, but I don't know. I'm a big fan of our pilot system. All of our progress has come out of that system.
No, I think the prize is getting to hang out with brewers like you guys. Getting to come
notoriety and just getting to hang.
All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That said, we're a very competition heavy club, and if now that we've said this down here in Kalamazoo, the next time you do the competition, you're going to be flooded with Kalamazoo entries. So,
what's already a long day of drinking will become a longer day of drinking when we judge the contest.
We have a habit of loading somebody's car up with beer, and like one person mules it all over somewhere, and
when we judge that homebrew contest on Saturday, I start hydrating on the Monday before.
So do you, speaking of that, and since we're on air and maybe some of my fellow Michigan Beer Cup people are watching, would you have any interest in actually judging Michigan Beer Cup as a professional brewer?
I hate to admit that I'm not familiar with what the Michigan Beer Cup is.
It is the largest homebrew competition in Michigan.
Okay.
So we're going on our 11th year now. I'm helping organize it this year, and we're trying to gauge it and trying to set it up, to do it in COVID reality. But the thing that we're finding is that we've got to secure the judges. And so we've got some BJCP judges, but as a professional brewer, you also qualify as a certified recognized judge. And so if we can get some certified brewers to come, late July, early August, come down to Rochester Mills. I know that's a drive for you, but come down and we'll feed you and you'll try a couple 100 beers in a weekend.
So what do you split? Do you split up the styles per like a la like GABF does a few few people judge?
It's BJCP. Yeah,
it's fully sanctioned. So you're gonna taste flights of beers in each category. So it's broken out. So, and you'll be paired with there has to be a BJCP judge. So you have a certified judge and then a pro judge or an amateur judge will be paired together to try. And you taste beers, I think, in 8 to 10 flights at a time. Take notes.
I mean, I would find that really interesting to judge with a BJCP judge, because I am not BJCP certified. We use that form, and we try hard to give good feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to pair up with someone and see what kind of feedback they're leaving.
Yeah, that's why we do it. And that as homebrewers. So our club and a couple other clubs in Michigan, we're very, keen on the homebrew competition, and we're doing it to get feedback. We want the feedback from professional brewers and BJCP, judges. And so, yeah, if you're interested, I'll shoot you some information after the show.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, feel free. Either Schnepf or I see Brian Tennis.
Yeah, both guys. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody
that's a big issue for us is it's in July and August. It's very difficult to get out of here.
We do try to do. It's usually one weekend at the end of July, beginning of August. And we'll give as much notice as we can. Rochester Mills hosts us because they have a large warehouse that we can set up in, and I hope some of the KGB or in Michigan Beer Cup people are watching, because I'm selling this shit now. We just had the meeting last week, and they're like, we got to find judges.
I think Eric Brigham's a great guy. I don't know if you work with him on that specifically.
So let's drink some double.
All right, which one are we hitting?
So Chris, number 4 or sugar wash? Or sugar
Brian, what do you think?
What do you?
Well, I would start with number 4. I mean, that is. There were a few versions in between, obviously 4 and the blend. The blend is a blend of batch 4, 6, and 9.
Yes.
And I guess it might be. I wouldn't start with one. I would do them side by side. That's what you should do.
Okay.
All right, I'll crack them both.
I have extra glassware.
I thought
I'm just going to drink out of the bottle at this point then.
Because of the timing on this, and because you just happened to be in the pub at a time when we were working on this blend. I mean, I guess I thought it might be interesting for you guys to taste that.
No, this stuff's so interesting. Yeah.
We did batch 4. Tennis will be interested to know that batch 4 is 100% Barbe Rouge, which we bought through him. Yes, Brian, I'll be looking for a discount tomorrow. I might 25% off on my current invoices. And
I'm curious to find out what fast slapping is in the middle of the
night. And we've reached that point. There we go. All right.
And then
not a family show.
I mean, batch 4 had promise, but we did a few other versions, and then to blend it down to have a sense, a spiritual sense of where the recipe needs to go. The recipe won't be a literal blend of what you're tasting, because that doesn't really work. But it kind of points to the direction of where I want the final recipe to go.
So let's go back to basics on this. Is this a variant of like Sirius? Is that
yeah? Well, is it a variant? Not necessarily.
Okay.
I tend to hang on to names and do wholesale changes on the recipe. This is a wholesale change on the recipe.
Okay. I mean, the number 4, and I'm trying not to remember because Brian and I drank these last night out of the growler. Both of them smell amazing, and but number 4 seems to be maltier and kind of have a bigger body.
For me,
I-
the 4 was about the bitterness level, and so the maltiness. It's got a heavier caramel note, and I wanted to blend down. The caramel note is a little heavy for where I want this beer to be, and we're talking like one of the things we work on here is these aren't big changes. I mean, these are small changes. And we do this with water, we do this with hops, we do this with malt. I mean, the difference between like a good beer and a great beer is like a difference in 2% in the malt.
Sure.
And that's where we're at right now with trying to fine tune some of these recipes, and just getting that caramel note down, and getting the balance of that and the finishing gravity and the IBU right, just takes it up a whole nother notch. And and we're not talking about big changes. We're talking about small changes.
Are they the same yeast?
Same yeast.
Yeah. My initial impression is that the number 4 has a little bit more of there's like a black licorice thing going on, or something. In the blend, it's kind of it's more mild and like just everything's just a little more muted. Nothing like stands out quite as strong. Maybe I'm just sensitive to like that particular flavor or something, or I'm making it up.
But I think the blend is it's muted, but it's more balanced, and maybe because I don't
balance
like
is the right word.
Licorice flavor, and so it's smoothed out some in the blend.
It is smoothed out. I mean, it's a smoother, more polished beer, in my opinion. Will we be able to do that in a single recipe? I mean, that's the goal. A blend is.
Got it.
Blends are interesting. They're not necessarily reproducible.
No.
Sure. Yeah. That's kind of what I love so much about like a sour beer and like mixed fermentations and stuff is that a lot of these places programs like speciation and stuff like that, they do these blends. They're blenderies basically, and
right.
You're just creating these unique flavors that are sometimes just one-offs because you have an idea in your mind of a flavor that you want to create, and they're fortunate enough to have so many barrels that each have like so many different flavors that they can take 30% out of this one and 60 out of that and 5 and 5 and create something of substance that like is amazing. Side project as well is I respect those guys a lot because all of their beer is barrel aged and a lot of what they produce is just blends out of all their barrels, and they take a lot of care to taste all of their barrels and take notes on them and blend them. It's cool. There's a lot of respect for blending for sure.
So my blending cellar has one beer in it right now. And Brian, you're up. You've got a couple.
To start, I'm sitting on 50 gallons of sour beer. Yeah, five at a time right now.
So 10.
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm learning. I'm trying to figure it out. I only started my my pipeline about a year and a half ago. So that was kind of my COVID project is to get a pipeline going and try to figure out
right on.
Yeah, how to blend. Yeah.
So I mean, between these two, I definitely see where the blend is more smooth, balanced, subtle.
Yeah, definitely.
Quite tasty for the style.
It's got some caramel and it's got some malt sweetness aroma. The bitterness we're still playing with the bitterness a little bit, but it's decently balanced with everything, and
it just needs more Zappa.
And then finishes.
Chris is smiling. Don't get him started. I can see it. He wants it.
something like that.
It's interesting. I mean, it finishes with this almost perception of sweetness, but it's actually a dry beer.
Really?
What did that finish
It's-
at? Do you remember? 08?
Yeah, probably like 10:06, 10:07.
Oh wow, that is pretty dry.
So
That's
I
what
mean, we make dry beer.
That's what we usually shoot for any of these traditionals. Somewhere between 06 and 010.
Yeah.
Usually, I usually the recipe is usually targeting 08, but there's always a little bit of
Sure.
up or down.
It's just
What
it's that
the yeast
body
wants to
again.
do and what it doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The more I drink it, the more I'm definitely digging the blend.
Again, it's not a beat you over the head difference, but for the non-blend is just has some rough edges, and they're not very rough, but they're rough enough that it's not where I want the beer to be.
It's I mean, there's not a whole lot of room to like hide errors in this style, right? Probably, or
I think the biggest error
not off flavor. It's just like, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
the biggest error is just making it too sweet. I mean, I think if you try, this is a very different beer from Chimay Red, but if you try Chimay Red, if you had that side by side, I mean, Chimay Red. I mean, frankly, I think the BJCP has that style guideline just described wrong or incorrectly. If you try Chimay Red and while you're reading the BJCP guideline where they list Chimay Red, that description does not describe what that beer tastes like or even goes across.
What's the difference? What's the difference between red and blue? For
blue is a dark strong and red is a double essentially.
Okay.
So that's we talked about famous Belgian breweries in Michigan or in the United States earlier. We totally missed Omegon.
Right on. Yeah. Omegon,
Allagash.
Doesn't.
Yeah.
But Chimay, and maybe I'm wrong. Omegon is Duval. Is Duval Chimay?
No. Duval is a they do gold. Duval is a golden strong. It's also the name of the brewery itself.
That's what I mean. But the brewery Duval owns
Omegon. Yes, correct.
Omegon.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I did not know that either.
Yeah.
Today,
But I didn't know if there was any crossover with Chimay there. I thought for some reason in my head it popped in that was the same.
And I may have misspoke too. If I remember right, the BJCP, if you read that and try Chimay's blue, it's way different than what the BJCP description is. But red also is a very dry and minerally beer. Not at all like what you might, it's definitely not sweet at all.
I guess that brings up a question. Do you guys like treat your water at all? Do you use local water up there or RO or?
We have an RO system. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Every beer has a mineral profile built up on it. That's a big
good
topic, and it's been a long journey.
For Brian.
What's that?
That is a
Chris?
whole show for Brian right there. Water chemistry. If you want to go in a rabbit hole, talk to Brian.
No,
Yeah, I don't think we should go down.
So I normally throughout the show I usually make fun of our Brian because he goes off on the science shit. So I actually have all these
It must be a Brian thing.
Brian or Bry Guy, the science guy.
yeah. There we go.
What else do we have?
That
I just have this, just fuck you, Brian.
You're talking about Brian, right?
And we have all kinds of banners.
Yeah.
So interestingly, Frankfort is is right on the shore of Lake Michigan, and if the city drew water straight from the lake like Alberta does, literally half a mile away, it'd be very different water. It'd be very hard water for sure.
Sure.
But they don't. Alberta draws their water from the lake. Frankfort is on a well, and their well is located over the demon sulfur mines of hell. And Brian, the science guy, have you run water reports through Ward Labs at all, or read
I
the
have
water?
for our portage water. Yeah, it's been a few years now, but
So the sulfate level of Frankfurt's water is 300 parts per million.
oh my god,
Which like if you read the water
Naturally.
book, you want it 50 parts per million
yeah,
tops. So we learned early on that we weren't going to make it worked fine. Well, it worked okay for IPAs or stouts or
Mhm.
whatnot.
hmm
But any light-bodied beer we brewed smelled like there was a lit match inside the fermenter.
I couldn't even imagine the
Oh.
loggers. Yeah.
So we went to an RO system really early on, and it's been a long learning process because I have a fine art degree, and I don't believe I've ever had a science course in my life. Not even if I had one in high school, I either flunked it or was too high to remember it. I don't.
Out of our club, Brian's the guy. He's the guy with the yeast bank, and he was really into you've done presentations on hazies and the science
Yeah.
behind hazies.
yeah.
And he does these really great, intellectual science. I mean, for those of us that like science, like I dig that shit. So I enjoy listening to him, but I do also enjoy giving him tons of shit for it. So, yeah, it's fun.
The water's been a great. It's been a great. And Chris and John. John is another employee here who has a big brain, and he's between the three of us. There's a lot of huddling up on what the fuck's going on with our water.
So I live out in the country, outside of Kalamazoo, and I live on. I'm pretty sure I'm on an artesian well, and my water's beautiful.
You have
Yeah.
to. Your water is like the most delicious, like nectar of.
Right. We
Yeah.
tested
No
tested my
joke.
water, and it comes out like perfectly profiled for brewing. And I attribute that, the medals that I've won or the competitions that I've won, I attribute that to this water. And as soon as I
Right
move, the world is going to realize what kind of a shitty brewer I am.
To Frankfort, Jason.
Right. When I moved to
yeah.
Frankfurt with shitty water.
When you move to Frankfurt, what you're going to want to do is buy 5-gallon jugs of distilled water and blend in about an eighth of city water into that. Maybe even
So
less.
I can
16th.
use the city water to mineralize my distilled water
Well, you'll use it to sulfatize it.
or sulfate.
That you're going to need to figure out what to do.
Do you guys blend in your local water? Like
No, not at all.
Like mineral
The
relations?
sulfate
Oh,
level
okay.
is So high that
Okay.
we blend in. The RO system blends in 20 parts. 20. Whatever 20 TDS means back in.
Total
It's
dissolved
very
solids.
little. So it's barely registering when we get a water report. We have an alkalinity of like 8 in the RO tanks. The only reason we do that is the flow meter on the brew deck is a magnetic flow meter, and it doesn't play well with distilled water. It just needs the littlest bit of mineral in there to actually register flow across it.
Detect.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's cool. That's crazy. Huh.
Yeah.
When we run straight RO through it, it just bounces all over the place.
Huh.
Interesting.
That's neat.
Yeah. I had no idea that worked like that.
Here you go, Brian. Something totally new to research.
No, I'm not doing the pro thing, right? Like, I have scales.
Yeah, he's a developer by trade, so I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on your brewery scale program.
Yeah.
So,
Might be able to use that.
it weighs the keg, right? And tells us or tells him how much he's drawn off. I'm gonna buy him. My wife was there last night, saw it working, so now I have the justification to go drop a few $100 on scales.
I had this thing where like we talked about earlier that like we brew for competitions a lot, and I do too. And sometimes I'm really bad about drinking too much beer, not having enough beer left to like send off to a competition. Like I'll have like 3 bottles left and not realize I drank that much beer or gave that much beer away. And I eventually broke down and bought some scales for my kegs, and I wrote some software to like live, display how much beer is in my kegs based on weight and stuff. And yeah, I mean it works pretty good. Left. Yeah, it gives me a rough estimation about how many bottles I have left, 12-ounce bottles worth, so I can be like, all right, now's the time. Stop drinking the beer. Just bottle off the rest of the keg, and move on. So,
right on.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great getting drunk on your shit. Hang out with you guys.
We're an hour and 50
I will.
You said it was
not our longest show ever, but it's definitely
it's pushing it. Yeah.
The last thing I want to, what's going on behind Jordan back there? Is that like a drum set or something?
Hold on. Let me get the fade off here real quick.
Jordan's a full-fledged musician, right? At least one album.
Yeah, 2. I was on 2. Yeah,
2 albums.
Yeah. We got a drum kit. Got a guitar over here. Got my bass. Jam with just about every night. Yeah. Throw some backing tracks on and jam.
So are you just a one-man show or are you?
To be honest, I don't write myself all that much. The drum kit I traded for one of my basses. At one point I had like 6 or 7. So I traded one for that because I always wanted to learn, and I play on it maybe once a week or so. I don't have an actual drum throne, so I use this fucking computer chair, which is not conducive to playing. But yeah, no, I play the bass pretty much nightly. Guitar I actually haven't picked up in probably like 2 years.
So what's the album, Jordan? Go ahead.
Oh, what did we call it? Hold on. In the Dark, Killing Faith.
Killing Faith. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. That was our main, what do we call it? EP, extended play. That's it. More than 3 songs, I think. Yeah.
So here's my question, Jordan. So it's fairly easy to pick up the bass and play it, but then what makes a great bassist? What takes you from the guy who can just play Smoke on the Water to being amazing? So
your bass player in terms of live shows is all. I wouldn't necessarily say stage manager, but you're kind of the one that kind of holds things together because you're tying in. You have to pay attention to your drummer and play off of the cues from your drummer, and then your singer and your lead guitarist are going to be taking cues not only off of the drummer but off of you as well. So you're the one who can move around the stage and be like, hey, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we're gonna do. You come over here. You do that. And also the other big thing about like I guess if you were to be, I guess, like famous bass players or whatever, or bass players like touring a national scene and whatnot, you are the one to take over the singer's job, as the singer is the primary entertainer. They're the ones jumping around stage doing all the shit that's entertaining the crowd. As a bass player, it falls onto you to pull lead or backup vocals, because again,
So you're
also
you're a rock conductor.
basic. Yeah, that's
Rock
kind of
conductor.
that's kind of where they stand. Yeah. Yep. I
Right
didn't
on.
know that when I started playing bass. It was a fucking lot to get into.
It's what he does for Michigan Brews, man. You know, Brian and I sit here and ramble on, and then when we get quiet, Jordan throws some beat into it. So,
You
Yeah.
wrote that
Yeah,
entire
yeah,
riff,
exactly.
you know, for
Yeah.
show starts. No.
I could.
we should have you back on the
Yeah,
show.
why not? Yeah,
Yeah, it's. I'll
the
do
guy-
some Seinfeld slap pop.
Oh, yeah.
That would
Right
be
on. Well, there. We got a bass lesson out of this 2 hours.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm
So it's
glad we
funny,
could give
our-
you guys back something too for as much as you've given us tonight.
There's our longest show, I think, actually went, was it 2 hours and 45 minutes?
Drew Jacobs.
About, yeah. Oh, was that
I don't
the Drew
re- I don't
Jacobs
remem-
show?
I don't remember the last half hour, so
So we have a Michigan has a country music superstar, Drew Jacobs, over in Port Huron, and he came on and hung out with us one night. He's not a beer guy, so we drink bourbon. So you can see where that.
Oh,
went.
right on. I could do that.
Just went to shit.
all right.
I could tell you some stories about Brian Tennyson bourbon.
We'll have to have you on as a special.
Yeah,
guest when we
maybe
get
you come back on with
Tennis
Brian Tennis. Yeah,
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, come back up, Brian Tennis.
We can ask
So-
him what happened to his keys and his shoes.
Fantastic.
It's
I
a
will,
great story.
Instead of Michigan Brews, it's gonna be Michigan Storytells. Like it's
Yeah.
fine. Like
Oh, there he is. No whiskey.
No-
no
That's our
whiskey.
tagline these days.
You know what, Brian? That's loser talk right there. So we'll get something like that set up.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Right on.
I'm empty.
I'm about empty.
Yeah,
I've got some
getting there.
Schwartz beer I've got to finish off.
Yeah,
We'll finish that later. Yeah.
So we should do the housekeeping. Let's see. Next week we're taking the week off.
Oh,
No, we're not. Isn't John Mallet on next week?
No.
No, it's a
Is it a
weekend.
you're gonna
after?
have Mallet's big brain on there.
Yeah.
Yes,
John
we
Mallet.
are.
John Mallet's going to be on the show on March 15th.
Okay, 15th.
So,
Okay.
March 8th, we're taking a Monday off to give our livers a break, and then we're coming back on the 15th with John
Dude,
Mallet.
he's John Mallet's coming in 2 days before St. Patrick's Day.
It is.
Oh, I feel like we have to do something for that. I don't know
Figure it
what.
out. We'll celebrate. We'll have
Chew green
green
malt.
backgrounds or something. Yeah.
Something like that.
Mallet,
and then
Mallet's an amazing guy. You better come up with some good questions for him.
We're excited.
know-
We hear he's a talker.
I'm actually,
He's a
with Mallet,
smart man.
I'm really hoping to actually only ask one question and then just let him talk.
I think that's what might happen.
Yeah. We had Andrew Blake on from Blake Cider, and that was
Mhm.
pretty much how that show went. We asked him one question, then sat back and drank cider. He just
That was a beautiful show.
it
Yeah.
was a beautiful show. Not saying you guys were great, and I appreciate
Yeah,
you guys.
absolutely. Yeah.
One of my favorite breweries in Michigan, Stormcloud. As I said, my wife's going to make me move up there. Frankfort's beautiful. It is 45 minutes from Traverse City, but it is well worth the drive, and you'll wind up staying there before you go back to Traverse City. I mean, so thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out with us
guys.
tonight.
Yeah, seriously.
Cheers.
Running into a 2-hour show. Cheers.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. Chris, Brian, thank
Cheers.
you.
All right, guys.
All right, so I'm going to do this. This is a joke every time we do it. We're going to do our outro, which
Yeah.
you can totally hear us talk through the outro. So it's
Oh,
already
yeah,
started.
see,
They can hear
Yeah,
us
there it is. Yep.
because I fucked that up. So, goodbye,
It used to
everybody.
be okay, everybody be quiet through the outro.
Goodbye.